Hello, everyone. I want to talk about something that I'm seeing on social media a lot lately, and it's the idea of fear. And I see a lot of posts, and I'll read a couple here that I've just seen over the past few days that really make me cringe and kind of send my anxiety going haywire a little bit. But I just want to share a little bit. A couple of the posts I've seen: get over your fear. Don't be so afraid. Or you can live in fear, but I'm going to go outside and enjoy my life. Wow, that's so brave. I see that, and I see that from all sides right now. And because I'm seeing this, and I'm thinking, there's a lot of fear out there. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the secret of getting over fear is, and share that so that we can finally get over this thing. So you ready for the answer? How to get over fear? So, all right, here it is. How to get over fear. You don't. All right? Fear is with us. Fear is an emotion. It's an emotion to be felt, just like everything. Just like sadness, just like anger, just like happiness. It's an emotion. And it's not necessarily good or bad. It's trying to tell us something. The idea of being afraid or experiencing fear, and some of us feel an elevated sense of fear. That's what anxiety disorders are. And right now, a lot more people are experiencing an elevated form of fear, myself included. There's a lot of it out there. But being afraid, the act of actually just living in fear, is not a measure of courage or cowardice. That's not the measure of it. It's how we respond to that fear that's a measure of courage or cowardice. So we're experiencing fear, some people more than others. That's not a bad thing. But as I said, it's an emotion to be felt. So what does the fear mean? What are we experiencing, and how are we responding to it? That's the question we need to ask. And I'll tell you that whether you have fear of going into the open water and going swimming like I have, or I've had in the past, or you have a fear of going into Costco right now because we're in a global pandemic, or you have a fear that there's a global conspiracy to silence everybody and take away our liberties. Those are all fears. Those are feelings, they're emotions, but it's how we respond to it that determines whether it's productive or whether it's destructive. And so there's a few things. Obviously, the responses to fear are fight, flight, or freeze. And for some people, the response to fear is to kind of lean into selfishness. Put your head in the sand, pretend that there might not be anything wrong, and see how you can eliminate your own fear to make it better for you. For me personally, how can I do that? Leaning into selfishness. And that's obviously can be a very destructive way of responding to fear. Another way is Yoda said it best, is when fear leads to anger. And this is totally true. I mean, it came from a movie in the 70s, but it's totally true. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to the dark side. It really does. Because hate is one of the worst forms of cowardice that there possibly is. And we see a lot of it right now. And that's where the cowardice comes from, is when the response to fear is hate. And I think everybody needs to really think of how their response to fear is, if it is hateful, if it is spiteful. So what can we do to respond to fear with courage? And I apologize for the for the landscaping, but that's just the realities of it. But what can we do to respond with courage? How can we be fearful and courageous at the same time? And I'll tell you that we can be we can all be the most courageous people, but even if we're fearful. And it's really looking at the opposite action. What's the opposite of selfishness? Well, it's compassion. It's love. It's vulnerability. It's putting ourselves out there. This is my response to fear because I want to share how I'm feeling. And I want to see if anybody else is feeling that way too, and maybe it helps. Maybe it helps somebody else to listen to this and understand that, hey, there's somebody else that's experiencing what I'm experiencing. I'm not the only one that's afraid. I'm not, and we can respond together with compassion and love and see how we can help one another. See how we can lift one another up, instead of reach our hand down and help somebody, rather than trying to push other people down because it makes us feel better. And that goes all over that goes for everybody. And then as far as I mean, our goal is not really to get over fear. We can't, as I said in the beginning, we don't want to suppress an emotion. How has it worked for anybody in the past? How has it worked for you to suppress an emotion? I tried for years to just get over my fear, to eliminate it, to push it down. You know how I did that? I did that with alcohol. I did it by pretending I was something I wasn't, and it caused more anxiety in my life. That's not the way to do it. We don't suppress it. We don't just get over it. We don't just, but what we can do, instead of getting over fear, what we can do is we can rise above it. We can rise above it by leaning into compassion, by leaning into vulnerability, and leaning into doing things that are helpful to people, leaning into adventure. If we lean into compassion, we don't eliminate fear, but in rising above it, we can keep the fear at the same level, and we can start to grow ourselves, and we can start to create points of reference for ourselves where we've gotten over that fear. We do it by immersion. If you're afraid of swimming in the open water, for example, you get in the open water and you start swimming in the shallows, and you get comfortable with that, and you go out a little deeper each time. You start to expand the elastic of where your fears are, where you think your limits are. And that in turn builds our courage, even though it doesn't eliminate the fear. We live with this fear, and it's about changing our relationship with fear. Instead of saying that fear is constantly a bad thing, ask what it's trying to tell you, and change your relationship with it. Realize that the things that come with anxiety, that the things that come with fear can be superpowers, that you can achieve so much, and be such a force for good if you lean into the good parts that fear teaches us. Lean into compassion even if it's uncomfortable. And as we rise above it, the fear from our perspective gets smaller, and the fear won't get bigger, but we will. So I just ask you to consider that when we're seeing people that disagree, or people that may not be representing what we believe to be true. How can we approach that situation? Do we approach it through shaming other people, through telling them that they're wrong, through making fear a politicized statement? No. I think we just need to approach it with compassion. We need to set the example ourselves, and we need to immerse ourselves in the things that can help us to rise above fear, to transcend it. So always remember, just try to, let's work on transcending fear, not getting over it. And let's listen to what it's telling us. And with that, I hope you guys have a good day and stay safe and healthy.